these people has weather PTSD now, I think. That probably sounds a little dramatic, but I swear to God, I'm straight up on edge anytime Nashville severe weather starts tweeting in mass. Since the tornado a couple of years ago, I don't know. It rattles me up. I did not sleep well at all last night, and it's great when it comes in a little more mild than you expect it to, but I wonder if people. I can't imagine I'm the only one who feels that way, or if people had like weather anxiety before now, or maybe I'm just, an insane person, because there's a great many reasons why I don't sleep well. But it's such a weird thing for me to freak out about. And I was shook yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you, Lucas.
I think you're alone. I slept like a baby. We got the all clear. Friends at Nash Severe Weather.
The last time we had one of these things that was potentially damaging. In fact, I think it was the last time that there was like significant tornadic activity.
Yeah, it was definitely more serious than what we had last night.
You were like running home from the bar in the middle of the weather, right?
Yeah, we could have handled that better.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, hope everybody managed it well. So something that I want to talk about with this draft process, given the idea that the quarterback position is going to be intriguing more than something that we need to spend legitimate time on, right? I think it's a possibility it could happen. I think if it goes down, people shouldn't be surprised. I think that there will be some kind of visceral reaction to it, but I think largely you understand the direction that it's heading. And outside of that, I had been going back and forth on, because, I get asked to do mock draft picks and by people putting together mock drafts across the country. It's, I'm always flattered when people ask me what I think about anything. But the mock draft stuff is hard because you want your analysis to mean something, and this is a very, very difficult and silly exercise to actually pull meaningful analysis from, because we have no idea, especially with a 26th pick, with 25 selections in the NFL draft. Provided that they don't trade back or out going in front of you, you have no earthly idea what's going to happen until we get to that point. Much less with trades. People asking about trades right now. I had heard that it was going to be a little more difficult to trade back this year. The reasons weren't necessarily made clear to me, but just generally it sounds like it's going to be harder to maneuver the way you might otherwise want John to maneuver. Doesn't mean it can't happen. But I don't think we'll know if they are able to do that until we get into the first round of the draft itself and until probably 10 picks are made. Those conversations will be had in more earnest because there's pressure. You're operating on a shot clock at that point, right? Now you have to get a deal done. So in going back and forth about the prospect that I think I want on the Titans, man, there's a lot of fun wide receivers to pick from. There really are. And not knowing necessarily how these things are going to fall, because we're going to talk specifically about two of them who I think make the most sense. And you'll hear from Greg Cosell on that matter here in a minute. But just in doing my pre-draft study, there's everybody from George Pickens out of Georgia, who's probably not a first round, but I think is just an absolute dog, just a nasty player. Can Vols fans bring themselves to root for George Pickens if he plays in two-tone blue?
What about Derrick Henry?
Yeah,
I think they'll be okay.
There's that. They got over that one real quick.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah. Whether it's George Pickens or Jahan Dotson out of Penn State, we talked about the Ohio State wide receivers who had their pro day earlier last week. The Volunteers, Tennessee, had their pro day yesterday. Spent some time discussing, basically where Velus Jones Jr. is going to make his money in the pros. Just saw something come across my timeline that is laugh out loud funny. I think I'm going to do the thing that I made fun of you for yesterday, where we tried to do a visual bit on a mostly audio medium.
Oh, good.
Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network has just tweeted Carson Wentz has a different kind of cryptic Instagram post. Lucas, you want to look this up? Have you seen this post? Okay. Carson Wentz, the now Washington Commanders quarterback, since traded away disgracefully from the Indianapolis Colts, he has posted a picture of him in a tractor in some field. I don't know if he's still in Indiana. It looks very cold, very gray, and very flat. That reminds me very much of the state of my youth and state of my birth. I don't know if it's in Indiana or not. Have you seen the tweet?
Is it a tweet or an Instagram post?
Well, it's an Instagram post that Mike Garafolo has tweeted out. Again, we're doing a visual bit on an audio medium.
This does not work.
Picture of him in a tractor. And the caption only says, building a higher road.
Oh, I see it.
It's a sponsored post. He's doing it with Bobcat. Honestly, good for Carson Wentz. That's the one time that I've been like pro Carson Wentz in my life, I think. That's a funny post. And he's still going to play for the Washington Commanders this year and be miserable.
That looks like something a local college athlete would do, like an NIL deal with like a local tractor company.
It's an NIL deal, but he's like 30 at this point. All right. I don't know if that was worth interrupting the radio show for, but that just popped up on my screen and made me laugh.
Probably not.
Okay. Thank you for all of your great support. Prospect who I want the Titans to draft. I'll tell you who it is. It's Traylin Burks from Arkansas, the wide receiver. He's an absolute stud, and I'm going to let Greg Cosell tell you why I'm in love with him, because the film, chef's kiss.
Traylin Burks, to me, is a high-level prospect. I really liked his tape, and I watched him last year as well as this year. He's got an outstanding size, play speed profile. Did not run exceptionally well at the combine. I don't know what he did at his pro day, but he plays much faster than his time speed. I believe the combine speed was 4.55. But he's a big physical wideout. He has huge hands. He can line up anywhere in your formation, including the backfield. He's got run after catch, speed, and competitiveness, which I think is critical in their particular offense because there's so much of that bang play action where you get the ball to the receiver quickly.
Now, when you say their offense, you mean the Titans as opposed to Arkansas?
The Titans offense. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. He can take a tunnel screen to the house. He can take a short throw to the house. He's got build-up speed because he's big. He showed the ability to get on top of corners in the SEC and stack them on vertical shots. He's got stride length, which is a trait. Sometimes these bigger receivers don't run the 4.35s, as Burke does not do, but their stride length is a trait. They eat up ground. But he's got big hands. He's a ball snatcher. He can make contested catches. He also, if you want to get a little creative with your offense, I think you can line him up at times in the backfield. He has a little bit of that Deebo Samuel, Cordero Patterson feel and how he can be deployed. That's the key point, how he can be deployed. Right. Because people think Cordero Patterson, who the hell is he? He's not a great player. That's not the point. It's how he can be deployed. I think Traylin Burks, if you want that bigger, more physical receiver that you feel you want to have on your team, in addition to A.J. Brown, Traylin Burks, to me, fits that bill.
Buddy, again, it depends on deployment. Like Greg says, you have to have an offense that understands how to creatively get these guys the ball in space, right? That's what has helped make Robert Woods is a talent unto himself. He's a highly skilled football player. But why he was so much more successful in Los Angeles, I remember Lucas bringing this up when they traded for him. You had mentioned, and forgive me if I'm putting somebody else's words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure it was you who had said you didn't remember his career in Buffalo at all.
Yeah, I don't remember a single play of Robert Woods in Buffalo.
And again, we went through the list of quarterbacks who were Robert Woods' quarterbacks in Buffalo. You understand why there was not much talked about Robert Woods. In L.A., they found creative ways to get him the ball in space. They found ways to optimize, to maximize their playmakers. That's a big question here this year, isn't it? With Todd Downing. Given what the criticisms of the Titans offense were last year by not just us, but smarter people than us, where you had Matt Bowen, Greg's colleague on the NFL matchup show that they do every Saturday morning on ESPN, or Sunday mornings during the regular season on ESPN, and Saturday during the playoffs, two of the smartest football minds in the industry telling you, hey, this thing's kind of limited. It's limited by play design. That was a legit quote after they lost the playoff game to Cincinnati. The Titans offense regularly limited by play design. Some of those limitations, it's fair to say, some of those limitations came from the fact that you were bringing dudes off the street every other week, every other Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we're having to find ways to get them to play together to win a game on Sunday, 91 total players rotating through the roster at any given point. 91 different guys that dressed for you. So you're having to have more limitations on your playbook than you would, say, if your guys were healthy for 70%, 80% of the time. So you want to be fair to Todd Downing. If we're going to tell the story, then we have to tell the whole story. There were reasons why that thing looked limited last year. The biggest criticism, though, came when you looked at the offense in the place where it was supposed to be with the least amount of limitations. In that playoff game, with an extra week to prepare, with a healthy AJ, a healthier Julio, and a healthy-ish Derrick Henry, right? You had as close to your full complement of weaponry as you had all season long, and it looked the exact same. So deployment, that's a big question. I don't know how much Tim Kelly is going to have an impact on that. I don't know how much Todd Downing is going to evolve in year one here versus year two. All I know is that this would give them a different dimension to the offense while sticking to their type. They have a type. They have a type when it comes to, think about all the wide receivers that they've drafted here. Now, AJ is built a little physically differently, but he's still a bigger wide receiver, right? He may not be physically as long. I think AJ is about 6'2", but he's still, that dude he's an ox of a human being. That's why he does so well after the catch, after contact, because he can straight up run through you. Play strength, play speed. That is something that embodies Traylin Burks' game. That is something that makes the pro comp for Traylin Burks A.J. Brown when you see people doing these comparisons. But for the most part, he fits their mold of what they want their wide receivers to look like. Julio, Nick Westbrook-Akina, A.J., Tajay Sharp, Corey Davis. Like, these are all bigger, longer, more physical wide receivers than, straight line burners. You got a Cam Batson and a Mason Kinsey running around out there every once in a while. But other than that, you got a type. So I don't know that there's no such thing as a can't miss, because you have no idea how to project. Nobody, even if you thought that Isaiah Wilson was going to be a problem in some way, shape, or form because you knew more about Isaiah than the average person knew about Isaiah, none of us could have projected him being one of the most disastrous first-round picks of all time. You have no idea that Trevor Lawrence, you may have an idea that Trevor Lawrence is going to flounder in Jacksonville, but you don't think that somebody who has been described, and frankly, I think unfairly so, as a generational talent, because there are too many. Generational talent is overused, right? Trevor Lawrence can be good. He can be the best prospect in that quarterback class. Generational talent is different.
Well, that just never slowed down because he was labeled that coming out of high school, and he basically lived up to it throughout all of college.
Yeah, but I think largely it's lazy analysis. But anyway, I don't have to get distracted. You had no idea that Trevor Lawrence was going to look so much worse from the first time that the Titans played him in Jacksonville to when he came here to Nashville at the end of the season, and he just looked lost, right? Generational talent can be impacted by geography. So you got to have the adequate coaching as far as deployment and as far as refinement of skill. Now, I think more often than not, Mike Vrabel and their coaching staff collectively has earned the benefit of the doubt. They have been a successful coaching staff here. They have done well. Certainly last year they did well to find ways to put together game plans, limited they may have been by injuries, to still find ways to win football games. If not pretty, practical. So you have to take all these considerations into account. But if they have the creative juices, I think you can make Traylin Burks work in a variety of different ways. But if they've got the ingenuity to make this dude work in the way that Greg is describing and the way that you've seen him used, man, would that be a lot of fun. Alongside Robert Woods and A.J. Brown. You can line this dude up anywhere. Hell, you can line A.J. up anywhere. A.J. was a big slot at Ole Miss. There's a lot of versatility that it can give you without you needing, all right, so we've got the two taller, longer wide receivers who we know are going to block on the outside. Let's go find a smaller slot guy to go catch passes on 3rd and 7. You don't need all of that. Or you don't need that in the way that you might think you have to have that. I think that you can have a lot of fun with a player like Traylin Burks. 615-737-1045.